Well, a British supermarket chain known as TESCO is coming under fire today after a message pleading for help was found in one of its Christmas cards. Now, the card featured a cat in a Santa hat, and it was found by a 6-year-old girl. Inside it was written, quote, "Forced to work against our will. Please help us and notify human rights organization." The note is believed to have come from prison workers in Shanghai, China, and TESCO has now launched a probe into the discovery and also suspended the use of the card as well as the factory itself. Well, for more on the story, we're now reaching out to Peter Humphrey in London. He was also named in the card, the man the prisoner was in fact trying to reach. He is the founder of the due diligence firm known as China Wise, also a former prisoner at Qingpu Prison in Shanghai. So, Peter, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, nice to be with you.
So in going through this card, this prisoner not only pleaded, but also wanted to reach out to you in particular. Why do you think you were named? What do you think they were hoping to accomplish by doing that?
Well, the prisoner or group of prisoners who did this obviously know me personally, because I spent 2 years in captivity in China in 2013 to 2015. And the last 9 months of that period, I was in the same cell block with these people. It's a special cell for foreign prisoners in the Qingpu prison in the suburb of Shanghai. They know me, and they know that I have a journalism background, and they know that in early last year, I actually published an article in the Financial Times magazine about my ordeal and about the prisons in Shanghai. And this is obviously a message in a bottle, hoping that they could reach me and hoping and asking me to take their plea to human rights organizations. And they mentioned the FT as well. So I interpreted that as meaning that I should take it to the media too. So I think what I've done today with this article, using my journalism background, is to bring this message to the world's attention at the most appropriate time, just before Christmas, because it really focuses attention on serious abuse in Chinese prisons.
While you were at that prison, were you forced to work against your will? Did you witness forced labor, slavery, in particular for goods that were destined for Western markets?
During my time in Qingpu prison, I did not need to participate in labor, because at that time, in 2014-15, it was not compulsory for the foreign prisoners there. That has happened in the last year or so. There's been a change in the regime for these foreign prisoners, which now forces them to work. Now, Chinese prisoners in that prison and in other Chinese prisons all across the country are all forced to work very long hours in manufacturing operations in factories, and some of them are dealing with heavy machinery, which may lead to accidents. But these foreign prisoners are not working in that kind of condition. They're working in a workroom. The tasks they're performing are mostly low-level manual manufacturing tasks, assembling small items by hand, typically with 2 or 3 components involved. In this case, the components are cards and boxes and labels. Another example, which I personally witnessed, was the assembling of packaging components for display racks and so forth. So this work is not work that I was forced to do myself when I was in there. The forcing began over the last year or so, and this is a kind of coercion. It's not that they're being tied to a table and whipped, but they're being coerced into working because the authorities have started to block pocket money being transferred to prisoners by their relatives, and they're forcing them to actually work for any money that they need to buy things like soap and toothpaste and underwear and so forth from the prison shopping system. They're forcing them to work to get that money. Another thing that's happened to coerce people to work in that unit of the prison is that they've toughened up how they run the merit points system, which enables prisoners to apply for reductions in their sentences. They've toughened this up, and they're making it necessary for prisoners to earn those merit points through manufacturing labor. Mm-hmm. When I was there, it was optional. You could opt if you wanted to study, or you could join a team of inmates who cleaned the corridor or who cleaned the shower house and so forth. But that's changed a lot. The last few years has been very much influenced by the increasingly authoritarian and harsh rule of President Xi Jinping, and that has gone right down through the prison system across China.
You know, I want to take a look at a statement here that we're getting from TESCO, again, the British supermarket chain where these cards are being sold. And this is what they had to say in part. Quote, "We abhor the use of prison labor and would never allow it in our supply chain. We were shocked by these allegations and immediately suspended the factory where these cards are produced and launched an investigation." What do you make of that statement, Peter?
Well, it's pretty well standard wording for any big brand owner to come out with a statement like this when an incident of this nature happens. But I would just like to say that I really don't believe that Tesco or any other big brand owner like them in that sort of pedigree of company would knowingly or deliberately contract work into a prison in China. They wouldn't do that. And they have a set of rules and procedures. They have boxes to tick on so-called supply chain due diligence. Supply chain due diligence was one of the things that I and my company used to do when we were in business in China. The problem is that Tesco and other companies cannot drill down the supply chain to the very bottom of the supply chain to see where the various bits and pieces of its product are actually being made. They have a contract with one Chinese company, in this case it's a company called Yunguang, and they think that that company is producing their product. And they may have put clauses into their contract forbidding the use of slave labor, child labor, prison labor, and so forth. But they simply cannot drill down to that level of the supply chain. And there is no access allowed into Chinese prisons. So the only information we ever get about this is when a prisoner is released normally, or when a message in a bottle like this appears. So I wouldn't rush to blame Tesco for any kind of immoral or unethical practices.
But what can be done then?
Well, I don't think anything can be done in this type of product, this type of low-level, low-margin production of things like paper products and apparel and so forth, and shoes. There's not much that any Western company can do to find out that it's happening and to stop it or to prevent it. They cannot trust the Chinese contractors not to subcontract further down the line. There's nothing they can do. And so I would say, you know, although I don't blame them, I would ask them why they're still making things like this in China if they know that this environment is one where this kind of thing is happening. They shouldn't be making this kind of product in China at all. There's plenty of very, very friendly parts of the world, very good countries where they could be making these products.
And very quickly, losing time, I assume then that is the type of pressure consumers can put on companies like Tesco and others.
Absolutely, especially as, you know, the supermarket chains, not just Tesco, the supermarket chains in general are now often, you know, saying that they're making cards to earn money for charity. Well, this is a bit ironic because in the one hand, they're making money for a charity somewhere, but on the other hand, they're making victims of human rights abuses suffer even more.